Some Miami fans think there's an agenda to the Hurricanes being ranked in the top 10 of the coaches poll. I love a good conspiracy, but I can debunk this one.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Miami Hurricanes radio network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this loaded episode, we'll talk about the most important veteran players on the Canes roster this year. We've talked a lot about the young guys in the past couple of days. Let's give the upperclassmen a little bit of love on this one. We'll talk about the pressure on Mario Cristobal and company this season, because we have to talk about this coaches poll top 25 that just came out. And hey, today is a Truth Teller Tuesday. We got the Truth Teller Bruce Warner with us. Bruce, before we outlined the agenda and the conspiracy, do you think there is a conspiracy for Miami being ranked a little higher than I thought they were going to be?
No, not really. I mean, I didn't know if they were going to be in the top 10. Certainly not off of last year's finish. We got new coaches. We've got new players. We have a new defensive scheme. But I don't know it. And, I said this to you a few seconds ago off the air. There's a big difference to me being truthful and honest of your opinion and versus being negative. So I'm going to be perceived as negative today, which most of these viewers consider me Mr. Negative. I'm not negative. I'm just telling you how I feel. I love what they've done, but they haven't proven anything yet. And to beat a Notre Dame team who's coming down here to possibly play for another national title, all the things we've talked about have to come true. So we'll see. We'll see on August 31st. Today's August 5th. We're not going to see anything today. I don't care how good these players look in practice. They haven't done anything yet. That's my issue.
So on the afternoon of August 4th, Monday, the first coaches poll dropped. As you see, Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Notre Dame rounding out that top 5. And then you've got Clemson, Oregon, Alabama, LSU, and Miami at number 10. Now, here's where the conspiracy comes into play, Bruce, or at least the perceived one, which I don't think it's true in this case, okay? So when I put it out on social media, like, hey, Miami's ranked a little higher than I expected. I thought Miami would be somewhere in the 12 to 13 range. And so I was pleasantly surprised that they're in the top 10. And then the comments started flooding in. Miami fan after Miami fan telling me, no, this is just a manipulation. They're trying to either set Miami up to get beat by Notre Dame, so it's more of a quality win for Notre Dame, right? That this is all about ND. And the other one is, hey, the TV networks, they just want to have a top 10 matchup between number 5 Notre Dame and number 10 Miami. So here's what I'll say, Bruce. If this were the AP poll, which is voted on by media members, right? People whose subscriptions and clicks and income depend on a juicier story that actually profit off of Miami and Notre Dame both being in the top 10, I'd give you that one, right? If this were the college football playoff poll, which doesn't come out, until, third through the season or whatever it is, which is orchestrated by the TV networks who profit from the rankings looking a certain way, I could give you that one. But who votes on the coaches poll? So the coaches poll is voted on by a panel of head coaches from FBS schools who are members of the AFCA. I think all of them are. These coaches are chosen from a pool of volunteers willing to participate in the poll. So, Bruce, the people who vote on the coaches poll do not profit in any way, shape, or form from Miami versus Notre Dame being a juicier matchup. So as much as I love the conspiracies, this one I don't think is legit. I think the coaches just think Miami's a good team. Can it be that simple?
Well, there's a million angles to this, as you've mentioned. I don't really know what they did, why they did this, but here's what I'm curious about. Let's assume Miami beats Notre Dame. Are they really going to stick him at number 4 or 3 or 5? Or are they going to move him up to like 9?
Or
Then
yeah, they'll move Miami to 9 and they'll move Notre Dame out of the top 25. Oh, they weren't
no, they
good.
won't. No, they won't. No, they won't.
Yeah,
But
all
if
right.
Miami gets smoked, you'll see this number 10 box filled by somebody else, and we may not be in this top 25. So it'd be real easy to disregard Miami if they lose to Notre Dame. But if we win this game, I'm curious to see where these coaches put them ahead of LSU. And the LSU plays who in the first week?
They play hold on, they play somebody, Clemson. They play Clemson first.
Right. So then you got 9 against 6.
Yeah.
You have 1 against 2, right? You have Alabama number 8 playing that powerhouse up in Tallahassee with the quarterback with a big mouth. So let's see what happens when Florida State beats Alabama. Right.
Right.
I'm curious to see, because this is one of the few opening weeks that we've seen battles between teams in the top 10, top 15. So I'm curious to see what happens if we beat Notre Dame. Where are they going to stick us? Right? They should be ahead of them. They should be
we should be top 5. If we beat number 5, we should be top 5.
You should be top 5. Yeah. Now, if we were ranked 15th or 16th and we beat Notre Dame, they may or may not even put us in the top 10 because they hate us anyhow. But this doesn't concern me at all. It's a good topic to start about us being in the top 10, but it's meaningless. Let's see what happens.
Preseason rankings to me are it's all about engagement and stuff. But again, like, I don't think there's a conspiracy with this one, because when I'm identifying a conspiracy, for me, it's follow the money, right? Who's profiting from this? The coaches who vote on this do not profit from this unless there's under the table agreements. That would be a whole nother conspiracy if someone could prove that. But I don't think there's anything there. But I think the bigger topic is, and Bruce, I know we want to get into this, this shows you the expectations are high for Miami, that coaches around FBS football think that Miami has, clearly a top 10 caliber roster, and they should perceivably be a playoff team if they rank them in the top 10. So what does this do for the pressure that goes to Mario Cristobal and his coaching staff to succeed this year?
Right. And I talked about this 2 weeks ago and last week when I said this is a must-win game. And I got a lot of negative comments about it. Then I got a lot of comments that Notre Dame's going to wipe Miami off the field. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. The perception of this team is a lot better than it was 6 months ago because they made changes with the coaching staff. I agree with everybody they brought in. They made changes in the secondary. I haven't really seen these guys play, but I'm assuming they're better than what they had. They brought in a couple of linebackers who I'm really high on, and the defensive line. And with Heatherman's new scheme, I like the defense way better. In fact, I've seen some of these podcast guys talk about the changes in the defense and the expectations. But again, I'm not being negative. I'm being honest with myself. I have not seen them play one down as a unit. And Notre Dame's tough. They're physically tough. They're mentally tough. They have a great coach, a great coaching staff. I would love to see Miami go out there and beat them. And then you could start talking about possibilities. But right now, it's just, I hope, I wish, I want, but we don't know any of this stuff. We haven't seen them. Yeah. The last 4 times we saw them, they lost 3 out of those 4 times. So let's see what happens on the 31st. Do I think we can beat them? Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll talk about that with the veteran leadership and things like that. But I'm not, I can't come out on the show and say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Based on what?
Right. The first game of the season in general. I mean, when you have a real game, I mean, some years you open up against FCS teams, but when you play a matchup like this week 1, it's hard to handicap. And that's on both sides. So, I mean, we get Notre Dame fans have found Locked On Canes, and we appreciate your clicks, but they're showing up in our comments like, we're going to blow you guys out. Like, how do you know? Because you don't know what Miami's going to look like. You don't know what your own team is going to look like with a different quarterback and a lot of different players, new defensive coordinator. Yep. These both are really good rosters, Bruce. Notre Dame probably has slightly more continuity than Miami, but we don't know what's going to happen. They don't, and we don't.
I have not heard that many good things about this quarterback so far in fall practice. I actually heard he hasn't been doing that well. So
the Notre Dame quarterbacks.
Let's keep it like this until August 31st, you know? And I think the key to this game is probably going to be stopping their run game because they don't want this quarterback to have to throw 40 times to win. This is his first start. But if we're forcing him to throw the ball because we're stopping the run, we have a really good chance of beating them, a really good chance. So again, this is going to be a great game, but Notre Dame is not without flaws.
Nope. Well, let's take a look at Miami's obstacles to putting together a great performance, and then we want to talk about the most important veteran players, because again, when you open against Notre Dame, these are the guys you want to lean on. You want to keep it locked right here. It's a Truth Teller Tuesday, and we're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Guys, Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Guys, I was surprised just how convenient Monarch is when I started using it. You can even get notifications when, a big purchase goes through, maybe a subscription you forgot about. You'll see all your spending and all your financial information compiled into one spot. So you don't have to click through dozens of apps. I mean, Monarch makes that the thing of the past. So you want to take control of your finances like I have with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. For your next listen, make sure you check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs and I take you around the conference, all the big storylines. We talked about that AP poll yesterday. Conspiracy theories not included on that episode of Locked On ACC, but you can get us free wherever you get your podcasts. You can get us free on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so Bruce, before we get into veteran players that are going to really set the tone for Miami, especially in that first game against Notre Dame, what would you say are like your biggest concerns on the field week one, like your biggest unanswered questions that you need answered if Miami's going to win that game?
I would say number one, and 1A and 1B and 1C, how our defense plays. Up front, the linebackers filling in, and the DBs playing solid, not losing guys wide open in the field, and they get a lot of busted plays. That's a concern. In conjunction with that, first down. We got to put Notre Dame. We can't let them go second and short and third and short all day. They can't get 7 yards on a run on the first play because they'll pick us apart, play action, run, whatever. So to me, first down is big. Now, we've known in the past, we talked all last year, almost every single game, third and long with our defense last year meant nothing.
Yeah.
Meant nothing. And back in the day, which is what I talk about a lot, third and long, they were coming off the field no matter what. It was very rare that they converted. So we need to be able to do better on first down and force Notre Dame to do things they don't want to do. And we have to be able to play consistently on defense. Communication, which is a word we constantly hear, and playing fast and playing aggressively. And that's what I'm hearing, and that's what I know Heatherman's doing, because Damian mentioned it the other day during those interviews, and Messidor mentioned it, Bain mentioned it, Scott mentioned it, Moten mentioned it. They get up when that ball snapped, they're up the field. That's what we've wanted to see. So if we see that, that would make me feel much better for the entire season, not just game one. Right. There has to be a change in how that defense plays. If we can get them off the field, we have a great chance of beating them and everybody else. Offensively, I guess the wide receivers, which is what everybody's talking about. But I'm not worried about Beck. I mean, you keep hearing about Lagway's better than him and this guy's better than him. And I don't think so.
And another thing, Carson Beck is healthier than DJ Lagway right now. That dude has been a walking injury going back to last year. He still hasn't been healthy to start Gators camp. Whereas, Bruce, I'm out there watching Beck throw footballs and lead the offense in training camp. You would never know this guy is coming off an elbow surgery. Like, physically, He looks great.
Right. Well, again, he didn't have any casts or anything on when he first got here. He seemed to be okay. The doctors always said he was okay. And I mentioned that when they decided to bring him in and pay him a lot of money, those doctors had to have examined his elbow and realized this is not a big deal.
No.
Because you just don't do that. And then he's not going to play this year. You wasted time and money and you missed out on getting somebody else. But so I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about the offensive line. I'm not worried about the running backs. I'm worried about the wide receivers being able to block because they're young for the most part. And it seems like C.J. Daniels is taking the leadership role, which we'll get to that in a minute. But I like that fact because all the rest of these guys are relatively young guns. So, but they're talented young guns, that's for sure. We keep hearing about Malachi Tony. So, these guys don't grow on trees. We have playmakers, but they haven't been able to do much. Last year we had our same 4 receivers. And we had Arroyo as a tight end. So we were so loaded, it was ridiculous. But so on offense, I worry about the receivers, but I'm not worried about anything else. And then, of course, there's always special teams, which we haven't done much in years. Our special teams have not been what they were. You don't have to have a Devin Hester returning everything 40, 50 yards or to the house, but you need to be able to set up a return. We're hardly returning any punts. They're fair catches all over the place. But still,
all these Australian punters, you don't have enough time to fair catching everything.
Right. Well, maybe you ought to put some pressure on the punters.
Yeah.
Start going, get T-Mac out there. Bring him back. He's got a couple of years eligibility. No, he doesn't. But anyway, so, and then you mentioned pressure on Mario. You want to talk about that now? I think he's got a lot of pressure.
We can talk about that, and we can get into the veterans in a second. Listen, I think, and I don't mean pressure as a bad thing. I think when you improve your roster year over year, the way that Mario Cristobal has, right? You come off a 10-win season that didn't satisfy the fan base. Like 10 wins was not good enough considering falling short of your major postseason goals. Mm-hmm. So, Bruce, that automatically creates pressure. And to me, on paper, the roster overall, top to bottom, looks better than it did last year. So, if we talk a lot, and Cristobal talked about it last year, and he talked about it this offseason, the trajectory that Miami is on, if you want to prove that your trajectory, and I believe it is on the up and up, you've got to build on what you did last year. You have to be more successful. You have to win double-digit games again. You have to get to the ACC championship game. You have to get to the college football playoff. And if Miami falls short of that, then, people are going to say, hey, he promised trajectory. He didn't deliver on that. So I think there's a lot of pressure this year.
Well, yes. Yeah. And if you look at, there's 2 words, schedule, which everybody says is tougher. It could be. I mean, look, we went to Gainesville last year and burned them badly, but then we kind of went downhill in many of the games. And the other word that I think for Mario is expectations.
Yes.
The expectations, you see them in the top 10, like you just showed everybody, there's expectations. So if they lay an egg against Notre Dame, and that's why I keep saying it's a must-win game, because it sets the tone for the whole year. It gives them instant credibility. It gives them something to build off of going into the 2 relatively easy games before the Gators come to town. So to me, it's not a must-win in terms of the ACC, because it's not an ACC game. It's not a must-win in terms of getting to the playoffs, because we could still get there. But it's a must-win in terms of perception. And that would be a major boost to him. And the other part of it is, as you mentioned a lot on the other shows when I'm not on it, is the recruiting aspect of it. It's huge to compete against and beat Notre Dame and Florida. And then we have 2 weeks off, a week off. Then we go to Tallahassee. If we can take care of those 3 teams, we're in damn good shape, really good shape. But
especially
again,
because there's a lot of guys, Bruce, that Miami is trying to flip. I mean, there's a lot being said this week about DB from St. Thomas who's committed to Georgia, Justice Fitzpatrick. By the way, his brother Minka is back in Miami playing for the Dolphins again. Miami's trying to flip him. We all know Miami would like to flip Derek Cooper from Texas, Tristan Keys from LSU.
I don't think Cooper's coming back.
They're trying. I mean, Miami's going to try. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they're going to try. Of course
they will. Now, if LSU has a bad season, maybe Keys will get out of there. So, there's no reason to think we're not going to. Well, we're going to try, because that's just how Mario is. But, the recruiting aspect of it. So, again, the Notre Dame game, to me, as meaningful because we have 2 weak, easy teams after that, which we should beat. And everybody's going to say, so what? So what? Then the Gators come to town, and then the pressure really gets amped up. And so I want to see us beat Notre Dame. I want to see us play a great game from beginning to end. And all these things that I'm concerned about, I'm sure the listeners are. If they say they're not concerned, if somebody comes on with comments, oh, we're going to kill Notre Dame. Really? I could say that. You can say that. It's easy. We have a platform. We both have a microphone. Miami's going to kill Notre Dame. Okay. I could say I just said it. Does it mean anything to anybody? No. We want to prove it. That 9-0 last year was a mirage as far as I'm concerned because of the defense. They've addressed that big time. I want to see it in game 1, not in game 8 or game 9. I want to see it. They come out of the box in a Hard Rock Stadium that is rocking at night. I want to see them perform like they did against Notre Dame back in 2017 when they wiped the field up with them.
Well, when we come back, as we know, Miami's got a really tough non-conference schedule. Like 2 of your first 4 games. I mean, people will also say USF is not a pushover. So, 3 of your first 4 games are going to be difficult. 2 of them incredibly difficult. Here, when we come back, are the veteran leaders on this team that Miami needs to lean on for a great start. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. I got an extra pep in my step today thanks to 5-Hour Energy. It is time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. And guys, I know that golf is about hanging out and having fun, assuming you're not on the PGA Tour. However, when I'm out there with my friends, I get competitive. We're all trying to up the ante. We want to show up our buddies out there. So yeah, golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your first order. This offer only valid until September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions, I should say. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For your next listen, check out The Portal. Our good friend Brian Smith, the recruiting overlord, on The Portal podcast, part of the Locked On Network, takes you through all things recruiting, transfer portal, NIL, all that modern stuff that makes college sports tick these days. The Portal is available free on YouTube and available free wherever you get your podcasts. We are joined here by the truth teller. Now, Bruce, I wanted to, you mentioned one of the names that I think is going to be incredibly important, especially to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
C.J. Daniels at receiver.
Yes.
Because when you have a young receiver core, and another one to me, Tony Johnson, the transfer slot, Cincinnati, and played at FAU prior to that, a lot of experience, by far the most experience out of Miami's slot receivers. Yes, you got young guys like Malachi Tony and Josh Moore, who are really playing legitimately well in training camp so far. But when you open up against Notre Dame, to me, I think Tony Johnson and especially C.J. Daniels are players in that receiving core that Carson Beck and Miami are going to lean on heavily.
Yeah, I agree with that. But he's a leader in the clubhouse too. He's been helping these other guys out and working with them, which is good because considering he didn't play much, if at all, in the spring, but he's healthy now. He's looking good in the drills, but he's helping the wide receivers overcome whatever little deficiencies, whatever little quirks they need to work on. He's helping Kevin Beard with all that stuff. So that's really important. I think he's definitely a veteran leader who is important to Miami because they really don't have much experience except for the transfers. So obviously Beck, because he's been there, 6 years already? This is the 6th year.
Yeah.
He's in here to do what Cam did last year. Prove that it was a fluke last year. It wasn't a fluke, because if you watch all these other podcasts, they'll tell you the same thing. The receivers were horrible. The offensive line was terrible. The running game was terrible. What do you expect from him? You know, he was making some throws. He thought he could fit in the windows, and he couldn't. I don't think he'll do that. I think he's going to be a leader. I think he's going to have a great year, and I think he's going to be a first-round draft pick. Where, I don't know. Doesn't matter to me, but I think he's going to be up there. There's other guys, you know, like Mawanoa on the line, but you have there's other guys on the line.
And Inez Cooper on the line too.
He's going to get picked, drafted, and Bell's going to get drafted. That's three right there that I know. You know, you could say Basaint, but I think 2 weeks ago I mentioned his name. He hasn't done much. He's been very inconsistent. Let's see what he can do, because he's playing a middle linebacker position, so to speak, even though they're only using two linebackers.
I think he'll play Will. I think he'll play Will linebacker. And,
I think so too.
Probably Torre at Mike linebacker.
Yeah, that could very well be. But and in the secondary, who knows? There's all new guys. Rodriguez only. Frederick is only.
Let me give you. There's a lot of young guys in the secondary. Let me give you an older guy that I've been impressed with so far. Jacoby Thomas, who transferred in from Tennessee. He very mature. I think he's become a quick leader in that unit, and he's one of those guys. And the full pads have not come on yet, Bruce. But he's one of those guys who's always like kind of testing the limit of how physical can I be in a practice in shells and not full pads. So I like the way Jacoby Thomas is out there setting the tone. I think he's a senior this year. So he's one. I know he's new to Miami, but he's not new to big time college football.
Yeah. Again, the veteran players. There's not a lot of veterans on the defense. There's Messidor and Bain, but we expect them to be leaders. Maybe Moten to a certain extent. He's been here a couple of years already. Blaze, he's an experienced guy, but I don't know if he's really a verbal guy. Justin Scott, not much of a verbal guy, but he's sure turning it around. I mean, it looks like his practices, and everybody says he's just massive and very difficult to block. And they asked the offensive linemen about the D linemen and how they're playing, and they asked the D guys about the offensive linemen, that's a real battle. And that's the iron sharpens iron that Mario keeps talking about, is those two units clashing in practice together, which could only benefit this entire team, both sides of the ball. I like that a lot. We have a veteran punter and a transfer field goal kicker. So there's a lot riding on that kid. What's his name? Auburn?
Yeah, Bert Auburn.
Yes, there's a lot riding on him, because he was in and out last year at Texas. He was okay. Not great, but we'll see. He's got to come through. We're spoiled.
Yeah, we are. Well, and a couple things, you rightfully brought up Carson Beck, who's the most important veteran on this team. And, I love the fact that heading into that Notre Dame game, Bruce, that for a lot of players on Miami's roster, that's going to be the biggest game they've ever played in.
Right.
Not Carson Beck. Like he's been in so many big games, SEC championship games, big time SEC primetime battles. That's just going to feel like another game for Carson. So I think that's really cool. I was watching ACC Network last night, had a lot of Miami material, and then Eric McLean from ACC Network was on SportsCenter last night because he was out at Miami's practice. And it's nice to hear a guy who's not like as close to the team as you and I are saying some of the same things that we're noticing. Like he noticed, Carson's got a live arm in practice. So McLean said, we're not worried about the arm. And he also noted that like he really has a lot of autonomy in Shannon Dawson's offense, and he's using that autonomy to change plays and call audibles, which is really nice to see. He's got freedom in this offense. C.J. Daniels coming over from LSU has been in big games. I mentioned Jacoby Thomas from Tennessee is another one. And so, I think this team has a pretty good mix. It's a younger team that it's been for the past couple of years, but I think they've got a good mix of certain older players, some of them internal guys, some of them transfers, but veterans who will kind of keep the team level-headed. The way, Cam Ward last year when Miami was down 18 points, down 25 points, he never lost his cool. You need guys to set the tone like that.
Yeah, well, let's hope they're not down 25 points in any of these games, because that would really mean the defense still hasn't been improved. I just hope that we see things that we haven't seen much of. And I keep saying it for years now. Screens. especially against Notre Dame, especially with Lyle. Lyle can start on a dime and be at full speed in 2 steps. You want to see him out on the open, having the linebacker try to cover him on a screen, things like that. You want to see this crossing routes. So that's part of what Dawson's going to do in these games. It's a chess match. Is Notre Dame going to run the ball or try to run it down our throats? That would take the pressure off their quarterback if they could run it down our throats. So then do you overcommit on stopping the run and they play action us to death? There's so many ways that we could win and lose these games, but I'm excited to see it already. I've had enough. It's been 6 or 7 months. We only have a few weeks to go. I will be there. You're going to be there. I told you to come into the former players tailgate. I'll get you in. And these guys get there like 3 hours before the game. So by the time they walk into their suite, they're probably bummed.
Well, hopefully they've got a fun game to watch. Well, always appreciate you guys making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. And we always thank the truth teller, Bruce Warner, for joining us on these Truth Teller Tuesdays. Bruce, thank you so much for the time. And hopefully we get, some more positive news in terms of practice progress before that Notre Dame game.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me as always. But again, I'm not being negative. And if there was a poll and somebody had to answer this truthfully, I bet most of these people are agreeing with me, although they might not say it in the comments. I'm not saying we're going to lose. I'm not saying we stink. I'm just saying I don't really know yet. Nobody really knows what's going to happen when they put a bunch of new players on the defensive side of the ball and a whole slew of new wide receivers that haven't played that much, if at all. So that's why I'm concerned. But other than that, I love our team. I love the roster. I do. I love the coaching changes. We've been talking about that for months now. Yeah. I think that Mario has done everything he could do to get ready for this season. Has he recruited and gotten everybody he wants for, no, but that's okay. Right now, the guys that are on this roster are in Coral Gables and getting ready to play Notre Dame. And I think we could beat them. I just do. But my concerns are what I mentioned 100 times already in this show. Right?
I can't disagree.
You agree. I know you do.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm always going to be nervous before a big game because I've been a Miami guy long enough to know anything can happen. Well, we appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to Locked On Canes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your pods. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked. Oh, by the way, I want to let people know I'm going to have an extra interview coming out later today. Going to catch up with James Brockermeyer, the transfer center. He's going to join me for an exclusive conversation later on tonight on Locked On Canes. So stay tuned for that. We'll talk to you next time on another episode right here on the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.